Ian has a very special place in my heart because I was actually bottom of the class with Malcolm Bradbury. At a time when teenage fiction was not fashionable, he said I was a writer for teenagers, which made me cry, actually. So Ian was one of the people who really supported me and believed in me, and as did Erica. But Ian was really, you were really attentive and really helpful for me. Anyway, I'm delighted to publish his wonderful short stories and a play which he put on actually back then, but has been put on a few times. And they're fascinating stories set in largely 1980s London, in a lost world of skinheads and kind of derelict building sites and strange dinner parties and sports days that don't happen like they happened then, you know, where it was vicious, wasn't it? But you weren't allowed to say it was vicious. Really great short stories. So I'm going to hand over to Ian to do a bit of a reading, and then we'll finish after that.
Okay, thank you. So, well, thank you. It's fantastic to see everyone here. Lots of old friends and fellow writers. Just a couple of things about these short stories. I did write them as a collection. Very much it was about 1980s London and London life, and a couple of years on either side. Something which may come as a bit of surprise is that I actually wrote these in the early 90s, so they're kind of blasts from the past. And they've been sitting in a folder in a storage box for 20 years. And I actually went up there to throw them out, and I started reading them, and I'd completely forgotten what I'd written 20 years ago. I circulated them to a few friends, like Anne Francis, and they said, you should really, get them published. And now here we are. So I'm going to read a story called The Gulf Between. It's actually, most of the story is set in 1990, but this is like a prelude set in 1940. So Marion, her elder sister Vera, and their mother were fed up with never getting any sleep in the air raid shelter in the street. So the three of them were sleeping at home in the cupboard under the stairs. A helpful neighbour had taken some old floorboards from a local bomb site, constructed a sleeping platform for 13-year-old Marion, while her sister and her mother slept squashed together on the floor beneath. It was another lively night. The thuds of the anti-aircraft guns in the park, why did they never hit anything, were interspersed with the frequent distant booms of bombs exploding. All this was taking place against the backdrop of the steady drone of the bombers overhead. There was suddenly a much nearer and louder explosion which rattled the house and woke them from their fitful sleep. A pause. Then a huge explosion which shook the whole house, with dust falling down upon them from the timbers under the stairs. There was another, now more terrifying pause, for this was surely a string of bombs. Then something just happened, a staggering blow, a force, a shock that bounced them out of their beds, sending Marion tumbling down on top of her sister, and as they lay in a heap, sucked the air violently out of their ears. Lying in a confused tangle of elbows and limbs, they found themselves drawing breath back into their lungs, at which point the door to the cupboard swung weirdly open, as if on cue. To their amazement, the house was still standing. In the dim light coming through the window, the blackout curtains had disappeared. They could make out glass from the windows scattered across the settee, various items tumbled from shelves, and crockery smashed on the floor. There was a strong smell of burning, and now wisps of smoke from somewhere. "We've got to get out," yelled Vera. Their mother, who was never less than nervous, was almost paralysed with fright, and Vera had to drag her none too gently out of the cupboard. There was a strong glow of light in the hallway coming from the window over the doorway, now framed in jagged glass. They picked their way quickly past shards of broken glass, but when Vera tried to open the front door, it was jammed tight. Vera was almost 15 years older than Marion. She had been mother and father to Marion for the last 10 years, ever since their actual father had left home to look for work, and as the weeks turned into months, it became clear he wasn't going to return. Their mother's life had crumbled, and Vera, then only a teenager, had stepped forward to become the head of the family, to be obeyed by Marion without question. Vera gripped the door handle and pulled and shook, but to no avail. If strength of personality and determination alone could have opened the door, it would have simply swung open. But Vera was a tiny, slight woman. The door remained stubbornly shut. Behind Vera, Marion's mother gripped her arm so tightly it hurt. Her mother was trembling and started sobbing quietly. They could hear confused shouting outside. The acrid smoke was penetrating their lungs and they began to cough. Their collective fit of coughing seemed to give renewed strength to Vera, who with Herculean energy managed to force the door free from the frame and it jolted inwards a few inches. At that very moment she suddenly collapsed with a sharp but short cry, as if a bullet had hit her in the head. In the dull light, Marion could see her sister's upturned face as she slammed down against the door, crying quietly out in pain and holding her head in her hands. A waterfall of blood was flowing down her face, rivulets running between her fingers and into her eye sockets. Marion's first horrified thought was that a flying piece of shrapnel had hit Vera in the head and that she was going to die. Her mother, now shaking uncontrollably, cried out to Marion, "Marion, help us, help us." This was a defining moment in Marion's life as she told it. This was when she realised that her life was in her own hands. This was the beginning of her determined journey to a very different life. It was all down to her. And that's the prelude. And then in 1990, the woman's son brings back his German girlfriend to visit the aunt in the same house. And that's the rest of the story. Anyway, thank you very much.